In this video, I'm going to show you what it takes to organize a game. And there's 3 steps to that. And in conjunction with that, I'm going to show you what it takes to self-manage in a positive way so that the game goes on nice and smooth. The video is about 20 minutes long. There's no action required. The intention is that this information will reinforce your commitment to self-managing and being a positive influence on the group. Positive meaning that you're making more fun happen, making the manager happy and players happy, and it's all good. So let's get started with the itinerary today. Hello, I'm Kelly Bombach, the Bomber, and I'm from TGO. And I'll be using the, TGO is the acronym for thegameorganizer.com for short. Your organizer is primarily there to host really fun games. That's really what gets the organizer up in the morning. However, we need to keep the organizer happy as well, otherwise seasons won't get renewed. And oftentimes when the organizer moves on, nobody wants to put their hand up because nobody really knows how they do that. So this is a bit of an explainer video. It's going to cover the 3 steps that an organizer goes through every week, if it's a weekly game, that is, to make it all happen. And hopefully it'll inspire you to find a core organizer or just a little task to help out in your effort or the organizer's effort to put on these fun games. So let's continue. So as I said, there's kind of 3 parts to organizing a game. There's preparation, which is primarily filling the game with players. And then there's game day action, which is unique responsibilities to putting on the actual game. And then there's the wrap-up. So we'll go into in-depth on each one of those and give you a good knowledge of what's going on. I'm going to bookmark that, though, with a little bit of a longevity intention. We do want this thing to happen year after year. And what can we do to make sure, as players and members of the group, to assist in that motive, in that intention, right? So let's take a look. Primary to group longevity is, why do groups disband? Okay, so let's take a look at a few of the reasons there. How can participate help or hinder, the organizer's desire to keep on going? What's a 3-pillar system that supports longevity? And playing level system, which we're quite familiar with because we all have registered by this point. Let's take a look. First of all, why do groups disband? No renewal of the season. I can go on and on with stories about how disappointing that has been, is that the organizer moves on, nobody has any idea how to pick that up. So why do the organizer leave? Well, sometimes it's for the good reason. They just, moving out of town for work or love or what have you, right? But I would say most often it's just frustration, responsibility, chaos, time commitment they can't handle, the financial commitment they don't want to worry about, constantly having to book goalies or pitchers or specialty players. And at the end of the day, though, it's just feeling bad about the quality of the game and just kind of wanting to slide away. Why do players leave? Well, players are leaving is a big part about longevity. If you don't have committed players, then you don't have much of a group, and so, feeling sour, games are erratic, communication's frustrating, life happens. All these sorts of things kind of makes players want to go. So there's a combination of issues here that the system is going to address, and let's take a look at how TGO does a work on that. First of all, let's look at player participation. There's an easy way and there's a hard way. And it's not necessarily the player's fault. It's a lot of time the organizer's fault because they haven't given the players distinct instruction on what's the best way to participate. And secondly, they haven't given them a method of doing it easily, right? So when you're doing it a good system, everybody's responding to the game invitations on time. They pay immediately. They show up on time. They have fun. They help out. And when life happens, it's no big deal because, you it's that 3% chance that things didn't work out for that game. Negative participation is later no response to attendance requests. Pay late to confirm, renege after confirming, renege on game day, renege within 2 hours of the game, show up late, don't show up at all, or poor sportsmanship. All of these things are just detrimental to the longevity of the game. But again, it helps to have some guidance as to what the protocols are with the team, what works, what doesn't work, and ultimately to have a system where positive self-management is easy to do. Like, why wouldn't you do it? So that's the whole key to longevity that the TGO system offers. So as I kind of went over a bit on the last slide was the organizer solution, in terms of, well, first of all, I didn't put in this slide. First of all, we work on a game overview, a group overview, where everything is there in black and white. Like, this is what our game's all about. And all the players are supposed to contribute to that. And, if you want to modify it as a group, modify it. And then the next season rolls around and you're all on the same page, right? Like, you're all participating and cooperating. Of course, new recruits don't know any better. They just do whatever the game overview says, right? And the other thing for an organizer is technology. You got to use technology. Nothing will burn you out faster than doing these laborious, redundant manual tasks, And third is delegation, right? Trying to do this all on your own is kind of a nutty thing. It's just too much. And the consequences are to the players, right? Ultimately, you leave and the players are stranded, right? So the player solution is positive participation, right? Know how to be helpful. Core intention. Know what it takes to be a core invited player, guaranteed games, right? Understand that all of the initiatives of the organizer and of the system is to create longevity. And a huge part of longevity is constantly recruiting, constantly taking that 3 minutes out of your life and asking your friend or that person that you're sitting across that's a hockey player to register, meaning that they just take a look at the group overview. If it's a good fit, they'll sign up, play a game. If it's still a good fit, hopefully keep on coming out, right? And then the third pillar is exactly that again. It's getting those recruits. It's getting a huge spare list of not only just a huge spare list, but committed spares, those spares, those support players that want to rise into the core and maybe next year's core. And that's the lifeblood of longevity right there. 1, 2, 3. One of the huge things that technology provides is the playing level system. Throughout time, we've had 2 playing levels. In the schoolyard, right through to adult life, 2 playing levels. You've got your full-time players, and the full-time players pay all the same price. And then you've got spares. And so the game day rolls around. You had 3 full-time players that couldn't play, and the organizer goes to the spare list and finds 3 players that will play, right? And that's it. That's the perfect situation. That means you've got a very good spare list that can accommodate the lack of full-time players playing. But here's the rub. Some of the full-time players will play 100% of the time. I know I nearly do, 99%. And then some of the players only play 50% of the time. Well, there's something fundamentally wrong with that, right? They're essentially paying twice as much as another player to get the same guaranteed play benefit. So it's just fundamentally wrong in that eventually this player that's paying 50% or twice as much is going to quit. They just don't see the value in paying so much. I mean, if it's baseball or soccer, it's generally not too expensive. But hockey at $35 a game, if you're all of a sudden kind of paying $70 a game versus $35 a game, then that's a problem, right? So the 4 playing system or the 4 playing level system promotes longevity in that it gives players a lot more freedom to choose just how many games can I play in a season, right? And if I play more, great. I'll just pay as I go. but I've committed to, let's say, 50% play, and then I'll pay as I go after that level has been met. What's my personal budget? You know, we all have a significant other that we have to, say, hey, this is what I'm going to invest in my team sports, right? Get some agreement instead of having to work this out halfway through the season, right? And these are the things that that the 4 playing level system provides, right? For organizers, this system allows a lot more freedom to get installment payments. The installment payments are so important, the monthly regular money that comes in. In the case of hockey, these monthly fees are not a little bit of money. And if there's not team money in the bank account, who's going to pony up the money to pay the rink rental fees, right? Who's going to pony up the money to pay whatever the rental fee is for a soccer field or a baseball diamond, right, etc. And then, of course, you've got your game credit people that are pay as you go, kind of the spares, and you want them to have an enjoyable game as well, and you want them to feel like they're treated fairly, like you got to have these casual players, right? Because a game comes along on a long weekend. Generally speaking, players are off on the weekend, but there's a game, and so you're relying on casual players on the reserve invitation list to fill in the gaps. So there's lots of great reasons for this, but only technology can allow this. It's just too mind-boggling to do it on an Excel spreadsheet or with a pen and paper. Okay, that was kind of a little bit long on the preamble to group longevity, but it's valuable, right? And by my iterating those stories to you, it's hopefully going to reinforce your commitment to the 3 steps and hopefully become a co-organizer one day. So let's take a look at step 1. And as previously stated, step 1 is all about getting that game filled. And the goal is to fill the game 2 days before the game actually occurs. So a key component to fairness to all players is the invitation status, which is not determined by who paid the season fees, who's played the longest with the group, although those things do come into determining the invitation status. They're not the be-all and end-all. Invitation status is earned by participation points. And for instance, in a hockey team, let's say there's 20 players maximum on the ice at one time. So logically, the maximum core you can have is 20 players. So what the system does is each player accumulates participation points, and by those participation points, an order is created. And if you're in that top 20, you get guaranteed play, right of first refusal within 3 days of the game, or previous to 3 days of the game. If you're not core, then you're support, which means that at the deadline, the attendance deadline, if there's spots open in roster order, those players are invited to play. And they're invited to play in order of how well they have participated. And I'm going to get into now how the participation points are accrued. First of all is attendance. And remember, there's basically 4 things we want you to do in self-management. One is update your attendance on time, immediately. Then we want you to pay if you're accepted, immediately. And then we want you to show up, and we want you to have fun. And believe it or not, all of these things are measured by the software. And that's how the roster order is created. So in terms of attendance, there's basically in green the participation that, it helps everybody. It helps the players. It helps the organizers. Decline on time? Fine. Maybe on time? Fine. If you're available and you go on standby at the end of a game, you get 5 points. And that's so that next game you have a less chance of being on standby, right? So the intention is that you're not going to be on terminal standby if you keep on committing on time to play games. If you play a game, you're confirmed, you get 2 points, right? So it's kind of easy. You get an invitation within 3 days. You say yes, no, or maybe. If you're not at least 95, 97% sure, say maybe. You can always sign up when you are more sure, right? And why is that? Well, it really just messes things up. Well, everything in gold is just problems, basically. If you're accepted, pay fee, and you don't pay fee, then that's a pain, right? Then the system has to wait 24 hours before they can invite the next person. That's bad. When you renege on an accepted pay fee, well, it's just as bad. Oh, I said I was available, but I actually wasn't. Okay, that's bad, right? You're just costing time. You're costing that player that really wants to play, that's on standby, not to get a spot and be able to make plans for the next game. Your accept expires. Oh my goodness. Are you lost in space, lad? That's -3 points. Accepted, confirm. Accepted, confirm. Late declines, maybe late. And then once you are confirmed, then there's all these reneging within various times of the day. How about reneging less than 12 hours of the game? I have a Sunday morning game, and reneging 12 hours from the game, there's no excuse that's not going to make me believe you're just too hungover to come. I'm sorry. Credit refunds, all no shows. Oh my God. No show is like the worst thing a player can do. All the work that's gone in all week, and they set the roster, the game managers set the roster, the puck is being dropped, the ball is being punted, and there's not enough players out there, and it's game day chaos, right? So you can easily see what's positive cooperation and what's negative cooperation. It doesn't require a long diatribe by me. Same thing with payment points, and it kind of relates back to a lot of the penalty points inside of attendance, not reacting. There's just one rule. When you get the invoice, pay it. There's no think about it. You've already said I'm available. You've been accepted, right? And now you have to pay. In terms of installment payments, that that at the beginning of every month you have to pay. So don't just piss around, right? Excuse my French. But if you got an issue, call the organizer. Don't make them chase you. Game credits, that would be pertinent to the attendance before, right? There's 24 hours to buy that credit, but every hour you delay, is preventing another player from paying. It's preventing from the roster being set. The organizers have to post advertisements in social media and hockey blogs to recruit new players. They have to send out invitations to the reserve playing list. There's so many things that happen. If you don't use email, then create a calendar event or get some way of knowing that, hey, on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, I have to see if I got accepted to play as a support player, right? Commit to that. Make that happen. Just make it happen. But as I said earlier in the video, is you can't buy your way into being core, but playing level commitment is rewarded. Upon registration, if you commit to paying for 75% of the game, you get points. It's all relative to how much your commitment is. Once you get into casual and PTO, you have no commitment, basically. You've got no skin in the game. You didn't pay a registration fee, and you're just kind of paying and playing as you go, and happy to get an invitation, essentially, right? So there's two playing level commitments. One is your registration for this particular year, and then there's years of membership, right? So you've accumulated an average participation score throughout the years, and 10% of that score is added. So if you've been positively a core player over the years, you really have to mess up to lose your core status accrued over time. So TGO is not ignoring who the core players are, and that's the core players who have committed, pay the installment fees, have been around season after season for a long time. This is your recognition right there. But just because you're an old-time player doesn't mean you're a core. You have to earn it, right? So for the new players, what are other great ways to make a significant jump in your participation score? Well, demonstrate great sportsmanship, right? Your presence making the game more enjoyable for everyone. This is a manager's option as to what this score will be. Helpfulness. Well, the organizer is very cognizant of who's helping out. And you've got a helpfulness score right there. Co-organizers are super helpers. They are, I'll show you a little later what that is, but they're taking a chunk of responsibility. They're handling the finances. They're handling the specialty players, or they're handling the regular players, right? These are big chunks, right? They might have players that help them out, so that's helpfulness score, right? But core organizers are really important people, and they help to. Well, they're the ones that the general manager is delegating tasks to, and that is longevity, right there. But the easiest and quickest way to participate is getting recruits. The software gives you 5 points every time you sign up a friend or someone you've met on the streets that plays hockey. Sign them up, let them look at the group overview document. If they like what they see, come out, play a game. If they like playing, who knows, they could be next year's core. And again, longevity is received. So there it is. Step one really had a lot of philosophy inside of it, but what makes the philosophy work is the technology. This is all impossible to do on an Excel spreadsheet. The amount of math involved in all of this stuff took years to create, and this is the outcome. It creates a fair system, and it creates a system where support players, feel like, yeah, I can be next year's core player, and you're motivated to participate in a positive way. You're motivated to help out, right? You're motivated to make this a better game. And a better game, it keeps players, and it just makes it fun. And that's what we're all hanging out here for, is to come out at a regular time, meet some friends, and have a great time. So next we're going to look at step 2, which is the game day action. And we want it to be game day action, not game day chaos. Let's take a look at the difference. So a lot of what I spoke about in step 1 was if everything is going perfectly, the game is filled 2 days before game day. And I'm going to tell you in these next 3 slides what happens when that is fulfilled. And there's a completely opposite scenario when you're getting closer to game time and the game is not full. That's a completely different situation. You have to understand the organizer is at work, or it's a Sunday morning. And there's this need to find players to fill the game. And there's players, reneging on a confirmation. And that's chaos. And that makes for a really lousy organizer day, which can ultimately lead to a lousy game if there's not enough players. I mean, can you imagine a soccer game with not enough players, or a baseball game? It just doesn't work. With a hockey game, if you're missing 3 bums on the seat at $35 a crack, that's over $100 that no one's ever going to see again. And somebody's going to have to pay for that. So let's look at the perfect scenario right now. Is okay, it's game day. And in this case, we're talking about kind of 2 hours before the game. I mean, stuff happens. Players do cancel them for legitimate reasons, but they've tried their best to be able to show up, and they've let the organizer know or updated their account, and then allowed the system to go out and find a spare for them. But inside of setting the roster, we've got the thing called player profile inside. That's inside your login account. And the intention here is to fairly set the squads in the case of drop-in sports, especially when the organizer has never met a new recruit or a new player. So this is how it's done. And that's why we have skill scores, right? Relative to, how the level of play that you are usually involved with. Are you, a level 4? Are you kind of an average player, contribute well, have reasonable skills, can handle yourself? Are you learning levels 1 through 3? Are you, a high performing player, levels 5 through 7? If you're a level 1 or a level 7, it might not be a good fit for you this game. If you consider yourself a level 7 or a level 1 for this particular group, you might be a bit out of your realm. And this helps everybody to, the players helps to choose, if this is a good fit. And it helps the organizer to know if this is it helps the organizer to make sure that the skill score, that the squads are set equally. Equally, you've got positions, you've got defenders, you've got scoring players, forwards, and you want to divide those up. And so that's what the player profile is all about. So, take heed of that in your account and make it as accurate as possible for the type of game that you usually like to play, right? And like I said, if you're a 1 or a 7, you might be looking for different types of games to play, right? Learning or too advanced. So what does that all lead into? Inside of TGO, all the players that signed up for the game are listed inside of the set squads. This would look differently if you're a drop-in team, or if you're just a team, then you'd basically be assigning all of the players either to a separate squad, or you'd be assigning them positions. You'd be assigning them as halftime. In the case of baseball, oftentimes you're a substitute. Case of soccer, you're a substitute. So what happens is that you email this game day squad to all the players 2 hours before the game, and everybody knows where they stand. It's not players showing up to the field and wondering if they're going to get a few innings in or playing half the game, right? You know where you stand, right? And it's fair. It's fair. And there's less disappointment. In the case of drop-in sports, especially when there's a lot of new players, you make sure that the total score here is relatively equal, right? Boom. So you're dragging and dropping players over. You make sure you've got the same amount of defenders on each side, right? And you've got your goalies are, reasonable. Whoops, I've gone the wrong way there. And, things like that. And you play around with this, and you come out with something where the organizer goes, yeah, I think we got ourselves a good fit here. Let's go play. And it works. It works very well. Now, finally, the players are able to show up at the game. They, there's even a personal message that's inside of the game if there's extracurricular activities after the game or what have you, getting everybody pumped up, ready to go. And then you got game captains that are ready to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of to make sure the game happens, make sure the equipment's on site, that the new recruits are welcomed and found their way in. verify everybody's there, that there's no-shows, which heaven forbid should occur. Especially players are ready to go. The game is ready to go. Then all you got to do is just have fun. You see how fun or how easy game day is when the roster is not moving around within 48 hours of the game. It's just too easy. And that's the goal. That is really the goal. So there it is. We spent, a good part of the week, 5 days, trying to get the roster full for the next game. And then game day comes along. It's a breeze. Everybody has a good time, and now it's time to wrap everything up and get ready to put on the next game. So let's take a look at those steps. A lot of the steps are accounting steps. It's making sure that all the payments were in order in the last week, checking out the bank balances, looking at projection reporting to ensure that there's sufficient money in the bank to pay for upcoming expenses, gives the organizer peace of mind. And co-organizers are working together to make sure that, that everything just kind of worked out last week, and, the system doesn't need to be updated, or it does need to be updated, right? So it just takes a little bit of time to wrap things up, unless the players didn't self-manage in a positive way. And I'll show you some of those. Okay, most of this is the financial co-organizer's duty is just to wrap up the finances. As spares are paying to play, as installment payments come in, every time the red button is clicked in the invoice, it posts a reading in the ledger here. This is the income. And so the financial manager should just be able to have to check all, boom, meaning that everything that comes in. Then the current TGO balance will be, let's say, 4205. And then the manager goes to the bank account for the team, and that's where all your money is sent. When you pay by e-transfer, it's automatically posted in your team bank account. It better say 4205, right? And if it does, bank balance confirmed, boom, and it's done. That is done. Now, if it's not balancing, then somebody didn't press the red button, or somebody did press the red button but didn't verify that the e-transfer was successful. So let's review that again. We've gone through this in several videos, well, all of them actually, because it's the biggest unnecessary mistake that can be made, and it's also just a thing we have to deal with to save a whole bunch of money. Credit cards are expensive. They'll cost hundreds, if not $1,000 or more dollars to take money by credit card. Having money exchanged in the dressing room, well, that's just madness, right? That's just madness. And then e-transfer is free. But there is a proviso to that free concept. One is that TGO or any software cannot automatically go into your bank account and take money out. That would be nice, but there's a few privacy laws involved with that we'd be impinging on. And then e-transfer, let's say Interac, when they do send money to a company, they don't track who they sent money to, right? For free, they're not going to do that. And so they're not cooperating with anybody's software programs to do that automatically. So there's only one solution, and that's for the player who pays must verify that the payment went through successfully. Once you've clicked the red button, or think you have, once you've e-transferred your money from your bank account, or think you have, you should see these receipts in your inbox. they should have the same money attached to them, right? Another famous mistake is, this the e-transfer receipt will be $75 and the invoice will be $35, right? Just a brain fart, but it's the player's responsibility just to do their own verification and clean up their mess so that when the financial manager is wrapping up the game, that everything's in order. And absolutely, the worst case scenario is, okay, nobody's fessed up as to why we have a misbalance. Now the financial manager has to go into all of the financial transactions that occurred in the last week or since the last game and match up all of the players' TGO receipts with e-transfer receipts and see which one doesn't match, right? That's not fair. So please do your part. It's super important. It makes the world of difference to the financial manager. So the beauty of software is, okay, we've put some good data in, right? Good data means that the TGO bank account matches the actual bank account. Good data. Everything had to have been done right to make those two things equal. And so now we have all these wonderful reports that all the co-organizers can look at and see what the future looks like. So let's just use these months as an example. It would be month 1, month 3, month 5, month 7, month 9. And in this case, month 9 is the season end, right? And so let's say we're in month 1 right now. We've got a healthy bank balance, and what's common is it depreciates over time because you've got installment payments at the beginning. And then at the end, you're just gaining kind of game credit payments at the end, and you just want to kind of survive the last couple of months. That's why installments are so important, right? They're to build up a bank account so that you can have enough money in the bank to make it to the end. That's why registration payments are so important to maintaining a good positive bank balance throughout the season. And so you can see the dramatic decline here from $3,000 in month 1 down to $121 was projected for the final game of the season. But what's so great for the organizers is that they know that they're on the right track. Like, breaking even is just fine. It would be nice to have a little surplus and have a good party at the end, or maybe carry it forward to next year. But not being negative balanced is just it's just a nice thing to feel good about, right? If this was a negative $1,000, and believe me, I've been on teams that have been a negative $1,000 or $2,000 when you're in month 3 of the season, right? So what do you do? Well, emergency, increase the fees. What do? Say nothing. And at the end of the year, you're $1,000 out and you pay it out of your own pocket. What do? You pass a hat around to try to, get $50 from every player to subsidize your loss. Or what do? You do a contingency fund, around month 3 and build up a couple extra $1,000 so that there is a bank balance to pay for the rink fees, let's say. And then at the end of the year, let's say you got a contingency fund of $1,000 and $800 is left in the bank account. Then you have to divide all that money up with all the nice people who gave you those loaner money. But that's a lot of accounting. That's a lot of accounting. If you had to pay for an account to do that, that would be expensive. So it's just way better to set the fees right in the beginning, monitor things as you go, use the system math, and come out with at least a break even. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. Okay, so here's the co-organizers and the organizers and the general task departments that are there. The general management person is the one who sets up the season, works with the rental facilities and insurance companies to set up the foundation, sets the fees, sets the scheduling, sets up the systems, all ready to go. The financial manager is collecting payments, reconciling bank accounts. The specialty player manager is doing 3 weeks in advance booking so that we're 100% sure that we're not scrambling with days to go to before a game to have a specialty player. You can imagine playing without a goalie, without a pitcher. It just doesn't work. And then regular player manager, is probably the most important person during the season. They're making sure that the games are as full as possible. Game day, setting the rosters, making sure the equipment's on hand. There's a lot of people that help the regular player manager do their job. And so there's lots of areas where you can start helping by helping a co-manager, eventually becoming a co-manager. Start as a goalie manager is a great start, or a specialty player manager. Maybe move into being a financial manager at some point. Cut your teeth on that if you have the aptitude for math. Move yourself around. One day the general manager is going to go. They're going to leave. They're going to leave. But now you've got people with experience that are ready to step up and come into their position. And that's longevity. That's what we're coming along to right from the beginning. So that's the game wrap up, and we have wrapped this thing up. Just a quick overview of the intentions to solidify everything. Well, the intention's longevity, but management by committee is how everything really gels a group together. Do it by a group. Mastermind improvements as a group. Don't have one person who has to do it all. Somebody who can't go on vacation. Somebody who has to chase money. That's crazy. Learn a little bit of the system, a little step at a time in small increments. Become a co-organizer. Work towards it. Everybody's empowered. Shared contribution. Do a little bit. If everybody did 5-10 minutes a week, the group would last forever. Thank you for attending and completing this explainer. I hope it has given you enough background information to motivate you to, not only to know and participate productively with the team, but also go to that next level and become helping out and be a future component to the longevity of the group. I'm Kelly Bombach, the Bomber, and I wish you a great season. Signing off.